I'll lead this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a word in the English dictionary called extortion. Usually it is used in the context of the mafia. But today it's a word that describes what airlines are doing to their passengers. Do you know how much a ticket from Mumbai to Leh can cost for tomorrow if you book today? As much as 60,000 rupees. This is Vistara. Economy, not business class. A Delhi-Goa Air India ticket for tomorrow starts at 21,000 and could go up as much as 53,000 rupees. This is Goa, Delhi to Goa. If I book today, 21,000 rupees, and it could go up to as much as 53,000 rupees. Again, economy, not business. Delhi-Bangalore, one of India's busiest routes. The busiest is Delhi to Mumbai. Delhi-Bangalore and Vistara, if I book today, goes right up to 33,000 one way. In fact, today it's cheaper to fly to European capitals than cities within India. I'm not kidding. Delhi to Paris is 30,000 rupees on Vistara. 30,000 rupees. Delhi to Amsterdam is 29,000 rupees on Indigo. Now, last minute travel is always expensive. We know that. That is why we book our tickets in advance. But sometimes we don't have the luxury to book in advance. There are medical emergencies. There are family emergencies. There are tragedies like the Manipur violence and Balasore that necessitate immediate travel, emergency travel. Is it fair for airlines to demand 30,000 or 60,000 for last-minute travel when the average cost of that same ticket would not be more than 10,000 rupees or 12,000 rupees? They call it surge pricing, a product of demand and supply. Seats are limited, passengers are more, and that is the situation. That may be so. But what explains spot booking airfares shooting up 3 times in some of India's busiest routes? What should we call this? Profiteering or extortion? How can an economy class ticket from Delhi to Mumbai that usually costs 6,000 rupees cost up to 27,000 rupees, even if I'm booking it 24 hours in advance? How is that possible? A ticket costs 6,000 rupees if I book it a month in advance, maybe 15 days in advance, costing 27,000 rupees if I book today. And it is not like spot fares are always that crazy. Because if you look at, again, India's busiest air routes, which is Delhi-Mumbai, a Mumbai-Delhi ticket on the 1st of May, spot booking would have cost 7,000 rupees. Today, it's almost 16 to 18,000 rupees. Now, yesterday, after complaints on social media, the government of India had asked airlines to self-regulate this abnormal surge in airfares. Abnormal is a word that the government of India has used, not us. 24 hours on, it seems that advice, that caution, has fallen onto deaf ears. Yes, we understand that India's third largest airline, Go First, has gone kaput. It used to operate about 1,500 flights a week. It is out of the picture, so there is clearly a shortage of flights. Those booked on Go Air are scrambling to get seats in other airlines. Plus, this is peak holiday season. Schools are shut for summer breaks, so more people are flying. This is a supply-demand issue. But there must be a limit to which airfares can be allowed to rise. This is predatory pricing that is deboarding India's middle-class flyers. And here's the moot question. If airlines are not self-regulating, which they clearly are not, why should the government not step in and put a cap? It has done so before. It can do so now as well. We are talking about all of that in just a bit, but we want to hear from you as well. We are opening up our phone lines. Our numbers are on your screens, 0120-663-4660. Should I repeat that for you? Maybe I should. 0120-663-4660. 4660. We would love to hear from you. Our phone lines are now open, so do call us. Our reporters are at airports in Delhi and Mumbai. They're joining us as well, and we are being joined by people who understand the aviation sector very well as well. Let me go straight across to my reporter first. Mayank is at the Delhi airport. Delhi is one of India's busiest airports, Mayank. If you look at prices from Delhi to Mumbai, from Delhi to Bangalore, from Delhi to Leh, if you try and book a ticket right now, it's simply crazy. Can I ask you, if you have any passengers around you, what they are telling you?
Well, Shreya, you have painted a very worrisome picture about the Indian airline industry. And, if that is the trend that is going to continue, it will, deboard all the middle class, because that is the point that this government as well has been taking pride in. We have been joined by some of the travelers who have been in the national capital. Sir, लगातार जो एयर फेयर है वो बढ़ता जा रहा है. आप यहाँ पे अभी दिल्ली में क्या कहेंगे, क्योंकि कंट्रोल से बाहर हो रहा है.
एग्जैक्टली कंट्रोल से बाहर नहीं हो रहा, दादागिरी हो रही है, प्राइस हाइक कर रखा है, सर्विस के नाम पे रिश्वत जीरो. एंड यू विल सरप्राइज टू नो कि मैं इस समय बंधक बना हुआ हूँ, मैं अपने घर नहीं जा सकता हूँ. 20,000 से ऊपर की मेरी 3 लोग हैं, मियाँ बीबी और बच्ची साथ में. 5 बजे की फ्लाइट है, ये 8 बज रहे हैं, सामान मेरे को मिला नहीं है. अपने पैसे से टर्मिनल 2 से टर्मिनल 3 पे आए हैं धक्के खाते हुए. यहाँ बंधक हैं, कोई फोन नहीं उठा रहा है. पैसे के तो खूब बढ़ाए जा रहे हैं, सर्विस के नाम पे 0.
आपने भी ये शिकायत कराना चाहेंगे दर्ज मिरर नाउ पे, क्योंकि आपने भी ज्यादा पैसे देकर के बुक कराए.
8 से 10 हजार टिकट का चार्ज कर रहे हैं ये लोग. हमारा पूरा जो लगेज है, कम से कम 25 से 30 पैसेंजर्स का लगेज उन लोगों ने वहाँ ड्रॉप कर दिया है, सिर्फ कमाने के चक्कर में. क्या इनको नहीं मालूम है वेट ज्यादा हो रहा है? ज्यादा पैसे में आप टिकट बेच रहे हो, आप लगेज उतार दे रहे हो. कितना गलत तरीका. 4 घंटे से हम लोग यहाँ खड़े हैं, कोई हेल्प करने वाला नहीं है. कोई इंडिगो का स्टाफ हमारा मदद करने को तैयार नहीं है, कोई फोन नहीं उठा रहा है. एकदम गलत बात है ये.
This is the plight of people who, board one of the premium, airline in operating in the country. And yes, Go First Airways is one of the prime reason, but you can clearly hear what people are thinking currently. They are saying that they have been paying, and you can clearly see the live visuals that how badly they have been affected by this price surge and, lack of care given by the airline companies. So they are clearly complaining on Mirror now, coming forward, speaking, about the apathy shown by the airline companies.
Okay. Let me go across to, thank you very much, Mayank, for getting us that live report. Passengers, they're angry that you're paying exorbitant prices for your air tickets, and then you're not even getting the basic services, that are required of you. My guest this evening, Devesh Agarwal, is the chief analyst of the Bangalore Aviation.com. He's joining us on the broadcast. Jitender Bhargava is someone who served very closely with Air India, and Professor Sriram Khanna is managing editor of the Consumer Voice magazine. Thank you all very much for being with us. We already have some callers, but Jitender Bhargava, let me come to you first. As someone who's worked very closely in the aviation sector, I saw your tweet today. I want to understand what explains, surge pricing is one thing. We all know that there is a surge pricing if you try and book 24 hours or 48 hours in advance. But what is happening right now is not surge pricing. It is predatory pricing. Some people are calling it black marketeering as well. How does one explain a Mumbai to Delhi ticket costing 27,000 rupees at this point of time?
No, it's again a question of market dynamics, seat availability, and the demand that you have. And what you refer to my tweet is basically, I'm putting it across that everybody is understanding, whether it is DGCA or it is our minister, that when Go First suspended its flights, it led to reduction in capacity in the market and therefore the spike in fares. But what they're failing to understand is that when airlines, all the 11 airlines which operate in domestic sector, got their summer schedule approved, and DGC approved 3,272 flights a day. Why are only 2,800 or 2,850 flights being operated? This deficit is leading to shortage of capacity in the market, surge in fares, and as we all know in the airline business, as you get onto the higher seats and fewer seats available, the fares keep rising. And when you buy a ticket one day before, you're naturally buying something with the last 10, 12, 15 seats available on a flight, and therefore the fares are very, very high. Now, this is something that, in my opinion,
But Mr.
government
Bhargav,
shouldn't be meddling in
Mr.
fares,
Bhargav,
but they can
I
certainly
want to
take
understand.
action as far as capacity is concerned. Capacity deployment ought to have been there. And
But
imagine
why
if you were
will,
to
how
add
does it
300
benefit
flights.
airlines, Mr. Bhargav? How does it benefit airlines to not fly to capacity? For example, you're telling me that, as far as the summer rostering is concerned, there are some 3,780 flights that have been approved. Only 2,800 are flying every day. My point is, how does this benefit any airline to ground any of their aircraft or not to fly to capacity? It doesn't benefit them either.
No, it does. It does benefit, because when you put less capacity on a certain sector, it leads to higher load factors. And the fares are high, as we all know about it. And this is where I'm saying, and when you analyze the data of what DGCA had approved and how many flights are being operated and what is the load factor of airlines, and let me give you a specific example. SpiceJet's compliance has been only 53%, which means that they were operated only 53% of the flights that were approved by DGCA for the summer schedule. And their load factor is the highest. There is a direct correlation between capacity deployment and achieving of load factors in a growth-oriented market, which we are at the moment. So that is where my contention has been. The Ministry of Civil Aviation and DGCA should have addressed this particular issue. I've maintained as an airline person that government should not be interfering in fares. Let it be determined by the market. But ensuring that adequate capacity is available, and particularly the capacity that's been approved by DGCA and recommended by the airline themselves. Why are that many flights not flying currently?
That's a good point, which means this is what we would say in Hindi, deliberate badmashi. This is deliberate badmashi to push up prices of air tickets. Before I come to my other guests, just give me a couple of minutes, because I think it's important to hear from passengers as well and citizens as well. We have three callers. Anil Sood, you're joining us from Delhi. Good evening. Please go ahead.
Evening, Shreya. Yes, as yesterday I said, it was black marketing of the ticket. It's not only black marketing, it is organized loot by cartelization of the airlines. If you look at the fare, all the fares, be it LCC, be it full-fledged service airline, fares are the same. How it can happen? And again, let me tell you, entire aviation industry is bleeding not because of low fares or unremunerative routes and prices. It's inbuilt inefficiencies and siphoning of funds. Despite fleecing the flyers, how can they continue to bleed like that? So it's all humbug. It's all cooked up cock and bull story by airlines that yes, they are making up for their losses. I am extremely sorry. Our statutory authorities are comatose. Nobody wants to do anything because their children are employed with the airlines. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Anilji, for calling us. Our next caller is from Bangalore. Ravindra, you're calling us from Bangalore. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Shreya. I have 2-3 points. First thing is, an auto rickshaw driver, he is supposed to invest money in in fixing the meter. And if he demands more than that, then he can be booked. Okay, so why somebody who has got an app like Ola and Uber or these airlines, they are allowed this so-called surge pricing, which is nothing but looting in another name. Okay, the Americans call lobbying instead of bribing. Just like that, instead of lobbying, instead of looting, you are calling it surge pricing. What is the use of acts like MRTP Act and things like that? All those things are there, but this is why this is an exception. Why this is legalized in the name of surge pricing.
Okay, so you're saying that the government wants to step in. It's all very well to say that the aviation sector is deregulated. सरकार का उसमें कुछ लेना देना नहीं है, होना भी नहीं चाहिए. We've had an open air policy which has benefited our airline sector very well, and it has. There is no doubt about that. But the fact is that if airlines resort to what our callers are calling organized loot, then the government needs to step in. They simply have to ensure, as Mr. Bhargava is saying, that there are enough flights that are operating for prices to be reasonable. We know nothing is cheap in this country anymore, but paying 60,000 rupees from Mumbai to Leh, that's half of what I will pay if I book a ticket from Mumbai to Paris today. That's how ridiculous things are right now. Pramod, you're joining us from Hyderabad. To my guests, just I request your patience because I just want to hear what our viewers are saying before I come to you. Pramod, you're calling us from Hyderabad. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi Shreya. You able to hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, I traveled from Amritsar to Hyderabad on Sunday night. I had to travel in urgency because my son's school was opening, and I paid about 24,000 per head. So for a family of three, I roughly paid about 70-odd thousand just for a travel from Amritsar to Hyderabad. It wasn't even a direct flight. It came via Pune, midnight. So early morning, 5 o'clock, I reached Hyderabad. So anyway, that was my issue. But I guess you can't really be paying 70,000 for 3 tickets. Even if I would have hired a Mercedes and come by road, I would have paid lesser. But obviously, time would have been much larger. So this is plain loot, and I sincerely feel that government should have done something. You can't leave it to the airlines. There is no self-regulation. That concept doesn't work in India. Ki apna aap dekh lo. This doesn't work. The other point was during COVID, I was regularly traveling between Delhi and Hyderabad. And there was a capping of minimum capping as well. So I used to pay 7,000 rupees for Delhi to Hyderabad because there was a minimum capping. When government was insisting on minimum capping when there was no demand at all, and obviously in a regular scenario, I would have paid probably 4,000 or 5,000. I was paying 7,000 minimum in those days. And now suddenly you have removed all capping and people are paying. I was just seeing your, schedules where people are paying 30,000 or 60,000. It's ridiculous. I can't really be. It's adjust. I am adjust at the rates what they are charging. It's like crazy. I had to travel, so I had to travel, but I really didn't know
it
what
is
to
crazy.
do. So, yeah.
That's the whole point. We understand. To my callers, could you just wait? Mr. Jain, you're calling us from Lucknow. Mr. Venkatraman Reddy, you're calling us from Hyderabad. The list is only growing longer. Just give me 3 to 4 minutes. Let me bring in Devesh Agarwal. Devesh Agarwal, you've heard what the viewers are saying. Fact is, we understand that if you buy a ticket last minute, there is you are going to pay a premium. But even if I just look at spot bookings right now. If I was buying a Delhi to Mumbai ticket, say on May 1st, even a spot booking, I would have paid not more than 7,000 or 8,000 rupees. On June 1st, it is some 16,000 to 18,000 rupees. So even when it comes to spot booking, there cannot be a 3-time increase as far as rates are concerned. But my question to you is not that. My question to you is this. Mr. Bhargava is telling us that this is deliberate badmashi by the airlines. They have committed to operating a certain number of flights and they are not doing it to push up prices. So this is deliberate. Now, if this is deliberate and if Mr. Bhargava is understanding this is deliberate and if aviation experts are understanding this is deliberate, then does the government of India not see that this is deliberate? Is it okay for the government of India to call a meeting and tell all airlines, dekho bhai, self-regulate? Yesterday, that meeting happened about self-regulating and look at where the prices are today. Clearly, that advice, caution has fallen to deaf ears, which means that the government needs to step in. Is there any harm if the government steps in? They have stepped in before capping prices. Why can they not do it now when things are reaching ridiculous levels?
Okay, Shreya, firstly, thanks for having me. See, I'll just give you, while you were talking to all your various callers I was doing some searching. For some reason, Delhi to Bombay, Kolkata to Bombay, tomorrow the fare is 20,000+. On the same day, Bombay back to Delhi is only 6,000. Bombay back to Kolkata is 6,000. So clearly there is some event happening in Bombay that is driving in traffic to Bombay. Because on the same day, on the same route, means a return route, the fare is like 6,000 instead of 20 or 21,000. So these kinds of, how would I use these words, micro explosions are bound to happen. If you see, you in the media are also in the business of what I will call, totally expirable inventory. Your ad inventory, if it is not used right now during this time, it is gone forever. So when we see certain media houses jacking up the prices for media slots during the World Cup or IPL or something, at that time, why does nobody complain? This is market dynamics at work. If the government turns around and says, okay, I'm going to follow a COVID level policy where there is a minimum base fare, and then I will also cap this thing, I'm quite sure the airlines will agree with that, because then it assures them that you are going to pay a higher fare. You will never be able to get that low fare of 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. And how are you going to today? Okay, the average middle class person can still afford, say, 10,000 rupees. What happens to the lower end of that middle class or the upper end of the lower class, who's now is where the government is wanting to expand into? You're looking at the going into tier 3 airports and things like that. For them, they have to keep fares low. Ultimately, it is all a balancing act. And if you see, airlines till now have been bleeding.
Okay.
Now, with regards to SpiceJet and Go Air specifically, you can see the action from the government obviously seems to suggest that their relationship may not be. I mean, it's closer than normal, so to speak. So I have no idea. I really can't comment. But if SpiceJet is operating only 50+% of its flights, I think the government should turn around and say, boss, use this slot or lose it. And I am willing to bet that Air India or Vistara or AirAsia or Air India Express or Indigo will happily take over that sector and immediately load in flights.
Okay, that's a fair point. You're saying that, these are micro explosions and you simply have to bear them, because after all, in the larger picture, it's all a balancing game. In any case, the aviation sector argues that we are a seasonal industry. Jab chuttiyan hain bachon ki, people will travel. When the winter sets in, there is a travel period. That's when people travel. Other times, fares are normal. So just bear with this. Before I go to Professor Sriram Khanna, let me quickly get in some callers. SK Jain, you're calling us from Lucknow. Please go ahead.
And thank you so much for raising such topic. Hello?
Yeah, sunai de raha, please bolte rahiye. Go ahead.
Hello. Madam. The perception is that our minister, Aviation Minister, is ignorant and inactive. And in my opinion, the Civil Aviation Minister is responsible for this situation. Hello? Are you hearing me?
Okay. Thank you very much. I can hear you, and I think you've made the point. You are saying that the Civil Aviation Minister is responsible for this situation. I'll ask Professor Sriram Khanna if he agrees with that. But, many people can argue that, after complaints started pouring in on social media about these crazy prices, he did call a meeting of all airlines and ask them to self-regulate. Now, it's a different issue that advice seems to have fallen on deaf ears, but I get the point you're making. Venkatraman Reddy, you're calling us from Hyderabad. Please go ahead.
I'm saying is the government can't be just a silent spectator when every product in India has got some pricing cap, like market maximum retail price, etc. Why this is not applicable to aviation? Only a few companies like Indigo, now they are like having a monopoly. Other people like SpiceJet and Kingfisher, they are just due to their mismanagement, they went down. But now I think this monopoly people like Indigo, they are just responsible for this, and government is just a silent spectator. Something has to be done.
Okay. You're saying the government is a silent spectator. Okay, thank you. Ashwini Kumar calling us from Bangalore. Please go ahead.
I'm Ramaswamy from Air had started. We are all from middle class families, and I remember once upon a time, we used to go to Bangalore airport paying 10 rupees only to see flights. And we never imagined that even we'll be able to fly. And when Air Deccan started issuing cheap airplanes, we could all travel by air, and, middle class, upper middle class people And we were able to, enjoy holidays with families. There was a feel-good factor. Now, suddenly it has come as a shocker. See, recently, we just don't enjoy low air prices. Whenever we go to, say, recently I was with full family in Delhi. And, four of us, we have enjoyed so much. And we have spent so much. That also helps economy. Now, suddenly these people, if they do this, and there is one more point to be noted, the refund policy has never been customer-friendly so far. The Civil Aviation Minister should take a note of it. Whenever a passenger, for whatever reason, if he wants to cancel the air ticket, you look at the way they harass you. They almost take off everything from you. Now it was not that scary because on an emergency, if I had to cancel the ticket, I could afford it. Now these are looking like all our holidays seasons are all over. We should be able to now plan only by car or by train, or I don't know whether it is indirectly a way to promote Vande Bharat. So the ministry should really seriously look at this, because it's not going to have only airfare, but then it will have far-reaching implications on overall country's economy of related to tourism. Refund policy has to be looked into in detail. Specifically, it should be made customer-friendly. This is all my view is, madam.
Okay.
What time?
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Let me get in Professor Sriram Khanna. Professor Sriram Khanna, some of our viewers here have directly criticized the Civil Aviation Ministry and saying they are, and essentially the thought coming across is that the Civil Aviation Ministry have been silent spectators as consumers continue to pay these crazy airfares, especially if you're buying a ticket last minute. Is that a fair criticism? Because after all, aviation is a deregulated sector. It is the market that decides prices. What is it that the Aviation Ministry can do? A long time ago, the government of India had decided on an open air policy, and that's exactly how things are playing out, and it has benefited the sector greatly.
Thank you. Madam, this open air policy has been going on for a long time, and within this policy, previous ministers and the DGCA officials have imposed a price cap. That price cap was removed when this current minister joined as the minister. And from looking at his performance since he joined, he is more friendly to the industry and the airline operators who are behaving in a monopolistic fashion. What is monopolistic fashion? Top 3 airlines control more than 80% of the market share. And whatever they do is going to influence everybody else. And they have decided, with the silent support of the minister, who's telling them, "Arey bhaiya dekho, monitor karo, kuch kar sakte ho to karo." He's telling his friends that because I'm getting shit from the media, do something, and if you can't do something, I'll keep quiet. This is what he's telling them. I must tell the minister that he is abdicating his responsibility to the Indian citizens. This is not what the Prime Minister promised to his airline travelers and other citizens. Sabka vikas, sabka vishwas. You are not actually earning the trust of the passengers who are traveling by airlines, and it's not for their development. It is for the enrichment of 3 airlines who are making money hand over fist at the present moment. And you can't make such informal suggestions to meetings of airlines. You have to use the law. Have you made a notification under the civil aviation rules? I don't even know if there is a surge pricing mechanism notified under the civil aviation rules. I think there is a big hole in the civil aviation rules, and the legal loophole has to be filled, and DGCA has to come into action, whether the minister likes it or not. The DGCA is responsible as a public servant and the officials under him to protect consumer interest. And I'm sorry to say, the current minister is not protecting the interest of passengers. He is helping his friends make more money at the cost of consumer interest. And the only word I can use for this is legal extortion. You are looking the other way when your friends are extorting the passengers and collecting huge money. Domestic fares higher than international fares has never been heard of in the past. Thank you.
Jitender Bhargava, is that a school of thought that you agree to as well?
You see, not really. One says, look, minister is siding with the airlines, etc., or there are only few airlines monopolizing 80% of the business. You can't do anything about it. The fact is, we have very weak players in the market. Go first, for example, SpiceJet not being able to fund growth or even its current operations, etc. Then if you have Air Asia, which is due for merger with Air India Express, Vistara merging with. So there are certain changes taking place, and no denying the fact that we are moving into consolidation of airlines, because SpiceJet, from being number 2, has slipped to number 5 position, and Go First, which was number 3 in the domestic market, has suspended operations. How do we look at it? But what we are basically talking about is, and I will repeat that again, that if you have adequate capacity in the market, the fares will calm down on their own. There's no external intervention needed. So DGCA, all that DGCA needs to do is wake up, pull up the proposals of the various airlines when they submitted for getting the summer schedule approved, call them over and say, look, you had offered to operate so many flights. Tell us, why are you not operating? And people trying to give justification that some of the aircraft are on ground, etc. Let me clarify, as an industry man, that when you submit a proposal to DGCA for approval, you factor in everything: availability of aircraft, availability of cockpit crew, availability of cabin crew. Everything is worked out, and only then you submit a proposal. So there is no reason why the airlines should not be operating as many flights as they ask for DGCA's approval.
So that is where the government can intervene without, messing up with the entire sector being deregulated, etc. That's where the government can intervene. The DGCA can intervene and say, boss, if you committed to this, at least fly these many aircraft. And if you don't, you'll simply lose the slot. Once airlines start flying, all flights that they have committed to, maybe prices go down. Let me quickly get in a couple of more callers here. Rama Subramania, you're calling us from Tamil Nadu. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm calling from Chennai, Tirunelveli. One point I wanted to make, particularly in our sector, Chennai to Korean, Indigo is the sole monopoly here. In fact, you can't get a ticket to Chennai for less than 6,000 rupees on any day, whether it is a holiday or during weekday. They are really calling the shots, and they are, in fact, at least there's a daylight robbery going on. They are operating 4 flights from Tuticorin to Chennai daily. All the 4 flights are running to full capacity. What is the problem in having another airline servicing this sector? You can see the trains are running to packed full capacity from this sector, from Kanyakumari to Chennai. Despite that, Indigo is charging heavily. So really, I have, in fact, 4 persons if I travel by flight, you have to shell out 30,000 rupees. I can as well take a car to Chennai which charges only 15,000 rupees up and down for me. I can travel comfortably, but I don't think Aviation Minister is least bothered about this, actually. He is more bothered about giving a photo ops and meetings, attending meetings and just going there without any solution. Really, middle class is really suffering.
Okay.
We are not able to travel by air. The fare is, in fact, much higher than travel to Singapore or Kuala Lumpur from Chennai.
The middle class is being clearly pushed out, deboarded from flights. That is something that one can clearly see. Vinod, you're calling us from Bangalore. Please go ahead.
Yes, Shreya ji, good evening. The thing is, I think the aviation ministry should add more and more number of aircrafts and flights and schedules in all the major sectors, so that this surge price and everything can be reduced. When in summer peak season, railways can add extra train services. In winter season, they can add. Why not in airlines also? That's my simple question. Thank you.
That's a good question. I'll put that to our guest this evening as well. Captain Jaspal calling us from Rohtak. He called us yesterday as well. Captain Jaspal, please go ahead. Good evening.
Yeah, Shreya, good evening. Hats off to you and your panel. You people are calling at least spade a spade. If you can't bell the cat, you are calling spade a spade. My only other issue that I want to add is we must develop the habit of going to the court. Article 21. After all of us are going on for some job to earn our living. And we must pay these airlines or other services through their nose for the delay that they cause, humiliation they cause, the gundagardi that they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Natarajan, you're calling us from Chennai. Go ahead. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. The one person has indicated is the legal extortion. Is a perfect word for this present government. Actually, already they say it's a sabke saath,
Sabke Vikas. Now, how it goes, this government, corporate kesa, middle class ka barba, or poor ka satyanash. This is what is going on. No, this government cannot survive. Even the middle class and the poor people cannot survive under this government. I think we need change. We need change. Very, very sorry state of affairs. Very sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mr. Natarajan, thank you very much. Two callers from Delhi, and I'm afraid after that we are running out of time. I'll just take a quick last word from our panel as well. Tahir, you're calling us from New Delhi. Go ahead. Good evening.
From Delhi. I'm calling you from Delhi, but I'm from Kashmir. We are associated with tourist business. We are facing huge problem of these flight prices. One end, the government is trying to get peace in Kashmir and more tourists, but the flights are so expensive, people cannot fly. We had better times when the Indian Airlines was operating. We had fixed prices in the country. We never had this 19,000, 40,000. They're just taking people for a ride. And we are getting a lot of cancellation. People cannot come there because it would have bring a lot of money to Kashmir. It would bring more peace there. But unfortunately, these private airlines have the prices that people cannot afford. Even my father is a senior citizen. He is in Delhi now. I'm trying to send him to Kashmir. The lowest ticket is 17,000.
Wow. Yeah, Kashmir, Leh, as I said, we were just looking, my research team was just looking. Mumbai to Leh was 60,000 rupees. Mumbai to Paris was 30,000 rupees. So that's what we are talking about. Manohar, you're calling us from New Delhi. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Ji, boliye Manohar ji, I can hear you.
Hi, Shreya. I have one suggestion to make in this high skyrocketing prices. That railway minister run special trains. Later, railway minister start some few trains, fastest trains, and teach them a lesson. Middle class people can't survive. This is a good suggestion. Please suggest.
Okay. So you're saying the railway should step in? Yeah, yes. I will suggest it. Essentially, Manohar ji from Delhi is asking the railway minister to start more trains, especially in key sectors, to teach airlines a lesson. I don't know whether he's seeing this broadcast. I'm sure he's busy with the Balasore incident because there are a lot of questions that he needs to answer for that. But I hope this point of view gets conveyed. Thank you very much, Manohar ji. Ashish, you're calling us from Bangalore. Please go ahead.
Yeah, my only one question is, why is this surge pricing when your operational cost per seat remains same broadly across the sectors? Why surge pricing at all? It is going to damage your tourism all across the country. Plus, if the government schemes of UDAN to connect regional airports will fail if the surge pricing continues like this. That's all. Thank you.
Devesh Agarwal, thank you. Devesh Agarwal, would you want to come in here? We've heard from all viewers. The simple point they're making, look, we can complicate this issue as much as we want to complicate it. But Devesh Agarwal, the simple point is, and this is what a couple of viewers have made, that if you know that summers are peak season when people take flights, right? Just like the railways operate special trains, why can't airlines, deploy more assets in the air? In fact, the assets they have committed to deploying, they're not even deploying that.
I fully agree with what Jitender said. I mean, if a particular airline is not deploying what it has committed, then what is the government doing sitting on its seat? It needs to haul up that airline. Now, the only reason that is not happening is obvious to you and me, but we cannot utter that on the air. So that is one simple solution. The other solution, again, as I point out, you just mentioned Bombay to Leh. Tomorrow morning, you can get on a flight and go to Bombay to Leh. I just looked up the Indigo website, 8,000 rupees. So, but the moment you go to a Friday or a Saturday, when everybody in the world wants to travel, it is 14, 15, 60, 20,000 rupees. So airline seat pricing is the ultimate, however I use the word, it is totally based on supply and demand. And unfortunately, deploying additional capacity, especially in airline, given the specialization, you need a you need a cockpit crew who is very well trained. Now, for instance, if I was flying to Leh, I just can't put any pilot, no matter how experienced that pilot is, and tell him fly to Leh. They have to do what is called a check ride. They have to be checked on 1 or 2 flights with an instructor sitting next to them who has flown that particular flight. So because of the extensive level of regulation, safety, and all that that is built around an airline, there is definitely a it's not so easy to deploy capacity. But let me tell you, airlines deploy additional capacity during peak times. They know fully well that they have to deploy capacity. It's not that they're not deploying. And tell me which airline in the world is going to turn around and say, if I can fly one more additional flight, I may not get 60,000 rupees, but just to give you an idea, rough cost for, say, for Indigo, because they publish their numbers. They're the only now, I think, an airline that really publishes their what is called cost per available seat kilometer. It works out to about 12,000 rupees from Bangalore to Delhi. Now, every fare that he sells or every seat he sells below 12,000 rupees has to be made up with another seat that is sold greater than 12,000 rupees. Otherwise, he makes a loss. And ultimately, what happens? It is a situation of Go Air and SpiceJet where they're getting hundreds of crores of rupees of bailouts from the government. Who bears the cost? It is all the taxpayers. It is not, and the middle class is one of the highest taxed, in this country. So whether we like it or not, there is no free lunch. We'll end up paying for this one way or the other. The solution definitely is what Mr. Jitender Bhargava says, that the airlines that are not fulfilling their obligations should be made to lose their slots and offered to other airlines who are willing to take over. Now, if you look at Go Air, we have suddenly pulled out 6.5% of market capacity. That is not a small amount. I mean, that has to be made up, and that's what's getting reflected in higher fares.
Okay. Okay. Krishnan, you're calling us from Bhopal, just going back to our callers because the list is only growing longer and we are coming to the end of the show. So Krishnan, go ahead, please. You're calling us from Bhopal.
Fare increase. This is the unnecessary increase, looting the public, and the loss being compensated by increasing the fares. Very unfortunate. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, very unfortunate, you say. Okay, thank you very much. Rajesh, you're calling us from Chennai. Good evening. Please go ahead.
Madam, good evening. Actually, we had been traveling frequently on aircraft in the last 1 year. But nowadays, the traveling on aeroplane is become very difficult for people like us. So what is the reason for this fare hike? And why the government is not taking any action to reduce the price? Or this airline is only for rich people to travel, not for poor people? Crude oil prices internationally, it is reducing.
Well,
why the airfare is not reducing? What makes them to increase the price every day?
Okay. Increase, decrease, increase, decrease. It's a seasonal industry. That's what the aviation sector will argue. But thank you for calling us. I'll just get a quick last word from Sriram Khanna. But before that, Brigadier Vikram Thakur, you're calling us as well. Please go ahead. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Shreya. I've been flying off and on in India and abroad. And these airlines have been freezing people, actually. While they have got some sanctioned, proposals from the government that as to what kind of services and how many flights going to fly, but these people put every small inch of aircraft, including seat, you have to pay, including the Jet Airways. I just flew other day to Istanbul on a 7-hour flight. They were not even ready to give you a meal. Forget about meal. They were not ready to give even a paid meal. They don't have these kind of things. So I don't know where other airlines like Air India and Vistara, they give meals and everything, and the rates are competitive with these people. But I don't know how these so these airlines are fleecing general public left, right, and center. And government is mute spectator, actually. They need to range these guys. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dr. Tarun, you're calling us from Jaipur. Good evening. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. My query is that when we have this economy class, why can't government keep a maximum retail price for every flight throughout the country? They should have something like that. Through the logistics they should calculate. Like they have controlled the cost of medicines, why can't they control the flight charges? There should be maximum retail price for any city-to-city travel inside the country. That is because these flights are essential for day-to-day living now in India. Thank you.
Okay. That's a question I'll put to Dr. Jitender Bhargava as a closing comment. But before that, let me quickly try and get in two callers. Anand has been waiting for a while. He's calling us from Bangalore. Anand, good evening. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good evening, Shreya. Thank you so much. And I kind of agree with my friend Devesh Agarwal, what he said. One way or the other, we'll end up paying for whatever happens. Now, the question is, it's just a food for thought. The perception about flight travelers, air travelers, are people who are over and above the middle class or a middle class and so on. Now, as the flight fares go up, the tax amount, respective tax amount and service charge also goes up, which means the government also makes money out of it. Now, yes, a lot of callers, everybody is like the government should intervene, we should have a rule, MRP, blah, blah. But will the government do that when they are also making more money than what they were usually doing, because the subsequent tax amount is higher when the airfares go higher? So it's just a food for thought. I really feel they won't intervene because they're making the money too.
They're making the money too. That's a good point. Actually. Thank you very much for calling us. Vinay, you're calling us from Noida, and I'm afraid Vinay is the last caller we'll be able to take. Go ahead, Vinay. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I've heard a lot of people talking about this episode. Only one question is, why there is no price increase or regulation by the government? Why can't there response in this? Why it is arbitrary?
Okay. So you're saying, why is this pricing arbitrary? Let me quickly get in another caller from Goa. I believe Mr. Amit Pradhan is calling us from. Go ahead, Amit. You're calling us from Goa. Good evening.
Yeah, hi, this is Amit Pradhan. I have only one question. There is always a rationale between cost and price. Now, what is the compelling reason for the price to go up when there is no such increase in the cost? So if they're going to keep increasing the prices, obviously the number of passengers flying would come down, and do they expect to make their profits out of a lesser number of people flying? So I don't understand whether there is any rationale on increase in price, because it's not getting a cost push that is pushing the price up.
Okay, thank you very much. Jitender Bhargava, we've at least now heard from 15 callers, if not more. And one of the things most of them seem to be saying is, bhai, if there is a problem, if this is what one caller said, that if you can regulate how much an auto driver charges for every ride, why can you not regulate how much an airline can charge you for an air ticket? At least let there be an upper limit. You have done it before. It's not like the government has not done it before. Why can't you do it in a situation like this? The government itself, Mr. Bhargava, is calling these prices abnormal. They've used the word abnormal yesterday in their press release.
A few points here. Number one, we've heard a number of callers. Each one of them agreed that the high fares, not good from the airline's perspective or from the Ministry of Civil Aviation perspective. You know, and many would know, that when I was with Air India, I would come and put my point of view across, and that is what you need to do to get the airlines coming. Like, for example, the last we all called you and said about the rationale for pricing. Well, we all know there is some justification for the fares that we have, because Devesh had pointed out to it. Unlike the auto driver fares, you have a different mechanism in aviation. And you do not say this is the normal price which will grow from first passenger to the last passenger to charge the same. It doesn't happen. 50% of the fares have paid less than the median fare. So that is what needs to be put in public domain. And as I said earlier, the only solution is that you should not be allowed to go beyond 80-85% load factor till such time you have put in adequate capacity or the committed capacity. And I would love to see some CEO of an airline come and defend the airline industry and say, look, don't hold us responsible for it. The rupee has depreciated against dollar. A lot of charges are dollar denominated. So with the result, we have cost problems as well. But the indefensible part is when they do not deploy adequate capacity or the capacity they've committed to DGCA, leading to, somebody very rightly said, if railways can put in surplus capacity, why not the airlines? The fact is, let's first get to the capacity that you have committed, and that needs to be deployed. And I see no reason why DGCA cannot understand the simple mechanism of aviation, the market dynamics. Let's put in more capacity, at least to the extent to which the airlines are committed, and see the fares going down. It will help the government's image as well.
Yeah, true. And to your point about the airlines coming and representing themselves and putting their side of the story forward, well, invites were sent to them. We did request a couple of CEOs to speak to us. No one wanted to. And that's an issue as well. I mean, if you're coming under such heavy criticism,
yeah,
absolutely. If there's so much criticism coming your way, at least come and explain your point of view. Otherwise, we just have our point of view. Anyhow, we leave it there for the moment. Thank you to all our viewers for calling us this evening. Devesh Agarwal, good to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Mr. Bhargava, always good to have you on the show. And we're going to thank Mr. Sriram Khanna as well, who I think has walked out for dinner. But that's perfectly okay. I think we stretched the debate a bit. Thank you very much. Thanks so much. Slipping into a break. There's some more news coming up on the other side. Do stay with us.